The Collaboration Conversation is brought to you by Project Brickworks, the new ministry dedicated to equipping Christians to use their talents and gifts to bring others into a relationship with King Jesus. Project Brickworks is a crowd-funded nonprofit ministry made possible by listeners and generous folks like you, and we are so very grateful. We created the Collaboration Conversation as a way for Christians to share about their upcoming projects and how they are using the gifts and talents that God has given them. Today, we are very excited to have singer-comedian Paul Aldrich with us from Nashville, Tennessee. We have never met before, but I have heard my parents talk about you, and they're all wonderful things, how talented you are and how gifted you are.
Whew,
and
that was close.
Right. And I wanted to share this quick quote from comedian Tim Hawkins about you. And it says, he said, "They say that humans only use 10% of their brain capacity. Paul Aldrich is running on at least 12%. This guy doesn't just perform for audiences. He takes them somewhere. He's the tour guide on a magical comedy musical excursion. There are several songs I wish I would have written. Most of them are Paul's." And those are some very big words.
Yes.
And so we are so excited to have you with us, Paul. Thanks for joining us.
My pleasure to be here, and I only had to pay Tim Hawkins about $1,000 to say those words. So I really thank you, Tim. It was a good investment.
From a per word perspective, that's not that much.
I got a discount.
You got a
He's
good
friend.
deal.
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Well, how are you today?
I'm great. Great. Yeah, it's a
Good.
beautiful day here in Middle Tennessee, and
Nice.
just glad to be talking with you ladies today.
Well, thank you for being here and joining us. So my husband and I met and got married and moved to Southern California, and we saw you numerous times. You were always one of our very favorite comedians to go and see. And we would, it typically ended up being at the California Youth Convention over Thanksgiving in Anaheim, where I think we saw you a couple of times there. But then we, in a weird way, reconnected at the, I want to get this right. It's at the Crossroads of the Nations Church in Brentwood at a creatives breakfast. And
Right.
I don't know if you remember this, but we had to switch seats and talk to somebody. I looked at him, I'm like, "You're not really him, are you?" But of course, I remember, as soon as I saw your face, I remembered you. But we just have
You look a lot older than
Well,
the 90s or whatever.
so do
you saw
I.
me, but I think it's him.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's great to see you again, even if it's virtually. And so we just want to get to know you a little bit better. And if you wouldn't mind, for our listeners as well, just share a little bit about you and your family.
Wow. I live in Middle Tennessee, in Spring Hill. My wife and I just bought a home here earlier this year. But we've been living in Tennessee for the last 10 years. But as you said, I was from California, grew up there, and just got involved doing music and comedy through various things. So I've been doing it full time for over 35 years, traveling around the country, doing special events for churches, occasionally clean comedy corporate nights, and a lot of fundraisers in this stage of life for crisis pregnancy centers, things like that. My wife is also an author and a speaker, and has a discipleship ministry. She's written a book on discipleships, and also does a lot of mentoring. And so we don't have any kids of our own. We got married very late in life. We were both in our 40s when we got married for the first time, each of us.
Wow.
So that's kind of a unique situation that brought all that about. And that's a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
Which we can do. We can do that.
Yeah. So we don't have any kids of our own, but we've got a lot of millennial daughters that my wife mentors that come through our door regularly. And so they're kind of our surrogate children.
That's
I
wonderful.
love that. We're all about discipleship and
yeah.
pouring into others. So that's really cool.
Yeah, amen.
Absolutely.
Well, so tell us a little bit about your career. How did you said you started in California. Walk us through that. How did you get started doing musical comedy?
Yeah, I grew up in church as a kid in Fresno, California, the entertainment capital of the state. And I grew up in church as a kid, but I really connected with the Lord through an organization called Young Life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an outreach to high school teenagers that people come on campus, make friendships, and just share the life of Christ with you. And so that's really where it connected at a Young Life summer camp in California. Kind of turned the corner. I went from somebody who knew about God to somebody that was really experiencing God for the first time.
Wow.
And so I eventually became a volunteer Young Life leader.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where I kind of cut my teeth, leading songs and doing skits, and speaking simple, gospel inspired messages to teens and working with kids, learning crowd control, all those kinds of things you have to learn and getting people's attention. So I did that just as a volunteer, and then got together with a friend of mine that was a guitar player and songwriter as well. And we started leading songs in camps in the area and would do the song leading. And then we would kind of throw together a concert, a couple of our own songs, and then a lot of the hit songs of the day. And after a while, my friend Randy became a full-time youth pastor, and I became a solo act and just continued on mainly doing youth stuff at that time of my career, and slowly kind of transitioned from being a song leader to actually more of a performer. I got to work with a lot of really great speakers who were very funny, guys like Ken Davis and a guy named Pat Hurley, and several other guys who were California guys that traveled around speaking. And so I kind of took what they did and the way they would entertain, capture people's attention, and then turn the corner and share the gospel, and started incorporating that into my life. So I began really becoming moving from songwriters or song leader to comedian over a period of time. And so I've been doing this full time, like I said, for over 35 years, travel around doing special events for all ages. And there's kind of a while where at first it was all youth, and then it just kind of branched out. You sort of age with your audience, and then it branches out, and I go from doing youth events to doing father-son events, and then family things. And so kind of just played all ages and all situations. Most of it faith-based, but then God opens doors here and there that are different as well.
Yeah, you mentioned some corporate events as well. That's very cool. When did you first find out you were funny?
Oh, I don't know that. I never really thought about it because you just have the personality you have. But
right.
I think early on, just, as a kid, I pretty much had a comment for everything that happened around me. And
like that quick wit.
Yeah. I would see the humor in things, and I wasn't like the class clown. I was more like the class manipulator.
Okay.
So I would get some other kid to laugh and have the milk squirt out his nose in the cafeteria, and then just kind of stand back and go, I don't know what happened. It wasn't me. So I was kind of that kid.
That is awesome. Well, so do you have any, I don't know, crazy show stories or favorite moments from over the years? Crazy. I'm sure there's so many.
Again, that's a whole podcast right there.
I'm sure.
That's 3. Okay. Wow. I don't know where to begin. There are great, wonderful times, and then there's times that don't go so well. I don't know which end of the spectrum you want to be on.
Both. Give me one of each. Sure.
In my youth ministry days, I did a thing at with Youth for Christ at SeaWorld in San Diego, and they just rented the whole park out, and they were going to have this big kind of accumulation of all this stuff, conference or big kind of blowout for teenagers in the area. And they had way more kids than they ever expected. So the place was just wall to wall human beings. And I was on this outdoor stage, and comedy, you need focus, you need attention. When it's outdoors and riffraff, it's not good. Like dogs playing frisbee and things, not good for comedy. I'm over here, people,
right.
It was horrible. And I just couldn't get anyone's attention. So I'm out there, and this is at night, and I am bombing. It is awful.
Oh,
and there was this one kid, and this would have been in probably the 80s, late 80s, and this kid over the side, and he was screaming at the top of his lungs. Now it blended into the crowd, but I could hear it clear as day. He screamed at me, "You're not as funny as Eddie Murphy."
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
and he was
my
right.
gosh.
I was horrible that night. I just
Hey, but to be at least considered in the same field as Eddie.
Yeah.
There's the positive spin on that.
We'll find a silver lining.
That's
there.
right.
But sometimes comedy is very subject to environment.
Yeah, and that was all stacked against you. That whole thing.
I didn't have the goods to overcome it. So there you go.
Oh no. Well, what about a good one?
Yes. Which one are your favorite memories?
There's just countless times. I guess, the best events are the ones where you just connect with an audience at a laughter level of just, sometimes you can feel the healing in the room just with the laughter of a release moment that happens, whatever it's just you striking the right chord with the spirit at all. It all just comes together, and there's just this amazing flow of laughter and release that happens. And then you turn the corner and you sort of ease into these God moments that, just sharing a little bit of a testimony or a scripture or whatever. And when those two things kind of come together,
it's magic.
My gosh,
it's God.
That's why I feel like, okay, that's the reason I'm on this planet, at least today, was to be a channel for this thing right here. And it's just a feeling, and it's just feeling like, yeah, that's right. There's just a rightness about it that's amazing.
Absolutely.
That's so cool.
Well, let's go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, let's go ahead and share a clip. Is that all right?
Great. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and share a clip of yours. Yeah, you look surprised.
Oh, boy.
We've got a recording of you doing what you do best, and we're going to show it for our viewers right now.
All right.
Idiots know it all. Always posting on your wall, but you don't have to take it. No, 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 no. You can unfriend. Who's a hero? It's made for you and me. M-I-C-K-E-Y M-O-U-S-E. Here, hi there, ho there. You're as welcome as can be. M-I-C, K-E-Y. Why? Because I like them. All together now.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. I'm so glad that you're doing what you're doing. That's great.
You're clearly very called to it.
Amen. Yes. So I want to go back to something that you said a little while ago. You met Jesus through Young Life.
Yes.
And our very first guest on our podcast,
6 or 7 months ago,
Yeah.
20-something episodes ago.
Yeah, is a Young Life director in Memphis.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Wow.
So we did a whole episode
about Young Life.
Young Life.
And so we weren't terribly familiar with it before, but what a great organization.
Yeah.
I just love that you not only met the Lord that way, but then you volunteered. That's just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really what I do now is pretty much a one-man Young Life show. I mean, the basic thing is I use comedy and music to engage. My show's very interactive. A lot of sing-alongs, as well as laugh-alongs, and then just you find that way, get a connection, turn the corner, share from your heart a simple one-point message. I mean, it's just a Young Life club, one-man version of it.
That is awesome.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, the young man's name is Stephen that we interviewed. So if he's ever here,
All right.
We'll let him know.
You guys can meet. Well, so
Great.
our podcast is about our talents and gifts, and kind of naming it. It's a gift from God, so it's not something that you really can be proud of. It's just a gift, right? So,
Right.
But kind of naming that, and then when you're really aware of what your talents and gifts are, you're just far more likely to be using them in a really productive, constructive, helpful, giving way.
Right.
So, and that's all, that's what our podcast is all about. So we would love to know, obviously communication's one, humor's one, but what are some of the other talents and gifts that you think God's given you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm a musician, the comedy, the humor, those things tie in. And I think the bottom line for me is I'm a guy who makes things work. And it's kind of always the nature of comedy in that you come to a situation, and I've always likened it to like a first blind date. Oh. You're there, and even if it's whatever the situation is, it's your job to make it work the best it can be.
Yeah.
And so you take the situation. So whether if it's a fundraising situation, it's like, how can I serve my client to hit their fundraising goal? What do I need to do? How much humor? What humor do you choose? And sometimes I don't always make the right choices, and you're like, no, I don't want to offend somebody,
Right.
in this setting, especially,
Right.
So I'm a guy who makes things work. And I think that's, it's an encouragement gift. If you, go through the list of spiritual gifts,
Yes,
it's
definitely.
an encouragement gift,
Absolutely.
but especially in light of just trying to serve situations. In other words, I don't have like my show and take it or leave it. And, that's what I do. And too bad if you don't like it. It's like, no, every place I arrive, it always bends and shapes itself to the need, and depending on if I got 15 minutes, if I got an hour and a half, what do you need to make your event successful, to lighten the load of, when I'm at a volunteer appreciation banquet at a church,
Yes.
Right.
put myself in their shoes and you tailor it to where they're at. If it's a pastor's convention or, whatever the situation, or a family night. Again, I do a lot of fundraisers, and especially with the fundraiser and the Pregnancy Resource Center movement, you want to make sure you're hitting the target because you want to serve these people who are doing just the front lines of God's work on planet Earth. So
Right.
I'm a guy who makes things work. I think that's kind of the summary of taking the music and the humor and whatever spiritual life I have and trying to blend them together for
that's
something
great.
good rather than evil.
That's right.
Amen.
Well, and I don't know that this is a spirit. It's definitely not a spiritual gift, but taking things in stride, like you were just kind of saying that you kind of have to be malleable in each situation, being able to have the SeaWorld day, but then also have all of these other days that are, glorifying God and raising funds for really great causes and things like that. And, being a comedian, I'm sure you have very thick skin. And so, being that in and of itself as an artist is really important. I don't have it. I'm so thin skinned.
Well, I don't know. It's always hard though. Just comedy is pain plus time, and
Yes.
the process of developing material. Even now, it's hurtful because you think, oh, by now I should just be able to just write that joke or write that song, and then I'm done. But it's always you put it in front of the audience, who may or may not have a sense of humor, and they get to tell you if it's funny.
And they
it's their
get to
vote
tell you.
that counts.
Right. Oh no.
It's a strange medium in that it demands response from an audience. So a musician can play a song and then people can politely applaud at the end, and there you go. But comedy, nobody ever walks out going, "Gosh, I wonder if that was a good comedy show or not." Everybody knows.
Yeah. Everybody knows right then in that moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in that art form, you've got to have a very specific set of talents from God to be able to do that and to continue to do it for as, with longevity and not let it burn you out, not let it beat you down. And so I don't know what I'm naming, but I'm naming that.
Well,
It's called brain damage. No,
We call it perseverance.
There's something wrong with you that makes this appeal to you. Like most people, public speaking is their greatest fear.
Right.
And this is just like, this is public speaking on steroids. It's like,
is.
you will demand, you are expecting something, and if I don't deliver, you will dislike me for it. That's how this works. And you go, shoot, I'll just go do that.
Oh my gosh.
well, how do you?
So,
Yeah.
it's just the business, but it's worth it if something in you is designed that way or broken or damaged
or broken that way.
it all makes sense somehow, and it's okay.
Yeah.
You're called.
For sure.
So how do you handle hecklers? Do you ignore them or you play into it?
It's pretty rare. I'll be in situations that I get hecklers. I don't do a lot of club stuff. It's rare that I've got somebody that's drunk and out of control.
Okay.
I mean, gosh, I could probably count on one hand through the years I've had something that extreme.
Good.
Not discounting some of the youth world because that's different. Doing a high
Different
school
kind of
assembly
heckle.
with 1,000 kids in a gym.
Yes.
You got crowd control with challenges. So.
Yes, I'm sure.
So I don't really have that so much. It's more if there's anything that's a challenge. I think you can be in situations especially like corporate situations where the audience can be very apathetic.
Oh,
They're like they just got off the golf course at some resort and you're coming in to be the entertainment. And they're disappointed that the guys aren't going to get to watch porn. Instead, it's you. And it's like,
oh yeah.
Okay, there's not enough alcohol in the world that's going to make this fun, as you guys. So,
man, you just got to go with it. So, did you have? And this might be an odd question. You kind of touched on how you got started, and this wasn't part of it. But did you have any improv background? Did you Has that been part of your training at all?
No, I just you just have a sense of humor. I think, again, I was always ad-libbing, verbalizing before I ever had an act of any sort.
Okay.
Just doing that naturally. I was the cut up. I would, I just had a great sense of timing and irony about things. And then when I got into that, song leading world, and especially watching some of these speakers, I really learned a lot of just watching professionals communicate, capture attention, move on, and then guys that I grew up watching, a Randy Stonehill, people like that were humorous songwriters. You wouldn't have called them comedians necessarily, but they were tremendously funny and writing funny songs. So I, modeled myself after, some of those guys. And then just the stuff I would watch on the TV, I would just naturally learn whole Smothers Brothers routines or other comedians of the day.
Yes.
And I sort of liken myself to the Smothers Brothers as far as an influence. I sort of just do both parts.
Yep.
Yep. They're the one man.
Yeah. But they did a lot of parodies, a lot of, just play on words and things like that. And, that was kind of a little bit of a role model for what I do.
Yeah.
When did you incorporate the guitar? Has it just has always been part of it? Or did you think, I'm going to stand out from everybody else, I'm going to do this?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's definitely been a heavy part of it. Because again, I was really a song leader who was funny at the beginning.
That's
right.
So I would use humor in the song leading and the whole Young Life background. I mean, a lot of it's humor based, doing silly songs and doing, crazy stuff. And so that was all part of it. So the guitar was always a big part of it. And then I just sort of sprinkle in stand up here and there. Sometimes the setups, the songs grow to be longer than the songs. It just depends on how it works.
Yeah.
But the guitar's always been a part of it. So I do a lot of song parodies, taking songs that people are familiar with, changing the words, and trying to get some humor out of those things. So that's a lot of the basic part of what I do.
I got to tell you, I have a lot of mad respect for that. We did a VBS a couple years ago at her church. And I used to go to that church, but I wasn't living in Fairview at the time. But they brought me in. It was New York themed, right?
Yes.
The Big Apple. And so they had me rewrite, I think it was 3 Broadway show tunes to promote VBS. And that was hard.
Wow.
And I wasn't even trying to be funny. It's funny because you're putting the word Fairview in instead of something else. So it's funny in that way. But man, that took me forever. And it was so hard. So I have mad respect for that.
Well, so how did the pandemic, I'm going to guess that it affected you pretty significantly.
Yeah. Well, it devastated a lot of friends of mine. And that was very, very hard to watch. People, having big tours that they were a part of, or they were headlining, and just watching it, cancel, reschedule, cancel, reschedule, cancel, just brutal to watch the carnage of musician and comedian friends, and then all the support industries that go with that. It was brutal. I actually, last year I had a unique job. It was just for a year, but I wrote a lot of this out I was working with a resort almost to the Alabama border, south of Nashville. And I was doing some booking for them. It was a new resort, and I would MC their shows. I opened for guys like Jim Stafford, or there's an 80s band called Exile.
Okay.
Or we booked a lot of tribute artists. So I opened for a Neil Diamond tribute artist,
Wow,
or
cool.
A Johnny Cash tribute artist, things like that. It was a lot of fun, and so that kind of kept me in the game a little bit last year. This year is where I'm really experiencing the downtime, because I don't have that as kind of a steady thing.
Sure.
And it's still, everybody, it's still a struggle. Some things are getting rebooked that got canceled, but I went from, I would pretty much fly a couple times a month, give or take, throughout the year. And I mean, after, March 6th, I flew one time in 2020.
Yeah,
man.
And so it was devastating. So coming back a little bit now, and then you're looking at, how do I need to reevaluate? I'm 65. I've been doing this, for over 35 years. It's like, okay, God, are you done? Do I keep reinventing?
Yeah.
Do I do something different? So I haven't really done a lot of the, Zoom, from home streaming things. But I've got some ideas for streaming, and that may be ongoingly a greater part as I try to age gracefully somehow.
Nice.
So I've got an idea for a show called Humor and Hymns that I want to do. It's kind of part sing along and then part silly fun. It's really just it's young life for old people. That's what it is.
I love it.
That works.
I love it.
So we may do like small house concert things and stream those, but having at least a little bit of an audience in the room, interacting, singing hymns, and then laughing together. So it's just a kind of a living room hangout kind of thing. Occasionally invite guests in. So that's something I'm looking at if I can find the right thing. But just the solo talking head Zoom deal for comedy, there's only so far you can go with that.
Right.
You need an audience. It's just weird to just record something and then assume that the audience is out there somewhere.
Is out there somewhere,
laughing,
Jeez.
Well, I read in your bio and the information that you sent that you have a My Dry Bar comedy coming out.
Yeah. There's a Dry Bar special. If you're not familiar with Dry Bar comedy, they have their own app, their Dry Bar app. And you may have seen a lot of their clips from their shows and not even known they were under that title.
Oh, okay.
They've recorded hundreds of clean comedy shows, like 25-minute or so length shows. And they're some really, really funny people. But again, all clean comedy. And so I taped a special right before the pandemic hit. And so I'm not sure exactly when it's going to come out. Just like with you guys in producing shows, it's like things are a little flexible. They can't put it here. Well,
you got to be
this
flexible.
flood of things that they're trying to sort out. So I think that's going to come out this summer. But it was an electric audience, and I'm really, really excited for that to come out. So if you go to Dry Bar Comedy, download the app and watch some of their comedians. It's all free. You can tip the comedians if you want to, just if you've watched their shows and like it. But it's fantastic. I just watched a friend of mine, Johnny W. His special just came out. Just fabulous.
Awesome.
Tons of great folks on there. Jeff Allen, a lot of my buddies. Well, Fairview, Jeff Allen from Fairview, who lives in Fairview.
Yeah.
He's done a special in there. So a lot of friends have been a part of that. So
Okay.
so it's one of the things that's hopefully going to come out this summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that you can tip the comedians.
That's really cool.
I think that's great.
Yeah. Well,
We need your tips.
we need
Yes.
your tips. Tip us. What about Paul Aldrich and Friends?
Yeah, Paul Aldrich Friends is a basically once a quarter I do a comedy variety show in Franklin. There's a church, a Generations Church in Franklin, and I've got to have some of my heroes on there. I mentioned Randy Stonehill,
Yes.
Phil Kagi, comedy friends, Ken Davis, Shonda Pierce, Jeff Allen, Victoria Jackson from Saturday Night Live. And so it's been a lot of fun, just blending different folks together and interacting a lot of times we all just start jumping in on each other's songs. And so
Oh my
there's
gosh.
a real spontaneity about it that's a lot of fun.
Funny.
So if you go to paulaldrichandfriends.com or if you go to like it on Facebook, you'll get information about upcoming shows. I'm hopefully going to have a show in August. I'll definitely have a Christmas show. And so that's a lot of fun because just the interactive nature. Comedy is kind of a solo business. And so that's a lot of fun to get to do these special shows and things like that. And I just, something I didn't let you guys know, I'm going to be on the Huckabee show in August.
Wow.
I think we're taping that on the, the 13th, something like that.
Very cool.
I can't remember the 6th. So anyway, early to mid-August, I'll be back on the Huckabee show doing a little bit of something on his show once I figure out what it is.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Well, so you're going to have to say hi to Sam Mullins for us. He's was a guest that we just talked to today. And he's one of the musicians.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah.
Oh, okay.
That'd be great if you all connect.
That was, that's so
I'll
cool.
do it.
Fun fact, you mentioned Victoria Jackson, and she plays the ukulele,
Yeah,
right?
ukulele. Uh-huh.
And she does her comedy bits. We were in a movie together.
Really?
Several years ago. She might know who I am, maybe. But we did a movie called Fat Chance together in 2016. And so she was awesome and super funny, and she fit the role perfectly. And so she's great.
She was the director of a church camp.
Yes. And she did a very good job.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Yeah, no, Vicki and I have got to work together several times. In fact, she's on my shows. We'll usually do duets. I'll write a duet with her. In fact, if you go to my YouTube channel, there's 2 or 3 up there. We sang a what do we sing? During the pandemic, we sang "You Don't Bring Me Cheetos."
Yes, I've seen
since
that
you
one.
started keto. We did that one, and we sang a kind of role reversal thing of "Baby It's Cold Outside."
I remember that.
Yep, I remember that
so,
too.
if you want to check me and Vicky out, go to my Paul Aldrich Comedy YouTube channel, and you can check that out. That was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, so you mentioned Facebook and your website and your YouTube channel. Is there anywhere else that people can connect with you, follow you, see what's going on?
Well, if you go to paulaldrich.com, I actually have my website and my app are all at the same address. And so I've got my own app. I'm still working the bugs out to use it and build the tribe, but I'm trying to kind of get this with social media being so flaky about what they will allow and not allow. I'm looking for ways to try, build, and connect with people outside of those mediums. If people go to paulaldrich.com, there'll be some prompts there so you can get on mailing lists, but you could also download my app and then be a part of chats and things, and I'll get a little more active interacting with the app. But that's a new thing, so that we're
so cool.
Hopefully it'll be kind of a well-oiled machine by the time the summer ends. But
absolutely,
check that out as well.
I don't think I've ever met anyone who has their own app.
I was just thinking, I don't think I've ever.
I am so big time.
Yeah,
cutting edge.
Because I paid a guy to build an app.
Cutting edge, ahead of the curve.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Look at me. I mean, nothing. This is cutting edge right here.
Yes,
that's right.
That's great. Well, is there anything that we forgot to ask? Anything else coming up that
you'd like to share with us?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I just want to encourage people out there, whatever you're calling, just dive deep into your dreams. And then I heard a great quote today. Then just let God walk through the room.
Oh.
You don't have to make it happen. You need to work hard. You need to be diligent at your craft, your calling, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
But then there's a letting go, and just let God walk through the room. He gets to arrange the furniture. He gets to decorate things. He gets to choose the timing, because sometimes we think we figured out, and we kind of strive to make a thing happen.
Yes.
And, I'm old now, so I can tell you, it doesn't always work that way.
Right. Absolutely.
Much stuff that you never could have dreamed will come your way. And other things you thought, oh, that's a sure thing. That's that. That was just a space holder for something else that God plugged you into down the line. So I just want to encourage those who are searching, that niche or whatever you're trying to press into. It's good. Work hard, but then you got to let go and just let God walk through the room.
Absolutely.
So true.
I love that.
That was great encouragement.
His timing is better than ours. The doors that he decides to close that we are trying to bang down, and he's like, listen,
Absolutely.
I've got other doors. He's so good. We serve such a great God. And so I love that encouragement. Thank you for sharing that. That's what this podcast is, all about. We talk about talents and gifts, but to what end? And the end is to encourage our listeners to really put their faith in God and to accept the gifts and the talents that he has given them, and then to go out and use those to further his kingdom and to bring others into a relationship with Jesus. And so I love that. That was such a great word of encouragement. So I'm going to add encouragement. Yeah. Just for sure. That's a talent and gift.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was
my pleasure.
Very nice to meet you again virtually.
Absolutely, and for the first time for me.
Well, and especially if we may run into you again. Just
hopefully,
both living in Middle Tennessee.
Yeah,
so that
sure.
would be great. And I'm definitely coming to see a show. So
great.
I'll be getting my ticket as soon as they go on sale.
All
That's right. Well, thank you so much, Paul, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
For more information on Project Brickworks and how you can get involved, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. To subscribe to our newsletter, text BRICK to 55498. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Twitter, like our Facebook page. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit the subscribe button, give us a like, and turn on notifications. If you're listening to this on a podcast, please subscribe and be encouraging with your rating. We love you all. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time.